Laura Ingraham has spent decades in the spotlight as one of Fox News' most recognizable hosts. Millions know her as a fierce political commentator and best-selling author. But behind the camera is a very different story, one built on love, sacrifice, and a unique kind of family. Though she never married, Laura chose a path that changed her life forever. She became a mother through adoption. And her journey with her 3 children is nothing short of extraordinary. The story begins with Maria Caroline Ingraham, Laura's first child. Their connection didn't start in a TV studio or a busy American city. It began in a quiet Guatemalan orphanage. Maria was born on May 11, 2005, and her early life was shaped by loss. She was orphaned as an infant. But everything changed when Laura arrived in Guatemala and saw a tiny 3-year-old girl standing in the doorway holding a small plastic bag with everything she owned. In that moment, Laura felt something powerful, something she later described as one of the most profound moments of her entire life. She has often said those few days in Guatemala were some of the most amazing she has ever lived. The days that gave her the greatest gift she's ever received. For Laura, this wasn't simply an adoption. It was the beginning of a lifelong bond, one built on courage, healing, and deep love. When Maria came home to the United States, the two began learning each other's worlds. As Maria slowly picked up English, Laura started learning Spanish, meeting her daughter halfway, step by step. Over time, Maria grew into a bright, compassionate young woman. Now 20 years old, she is pursuing a degree in nursing, a choice that reflects her heart for helping others. Laura has proudly shared moments from her journey. Maria's high school graduation, her first year of college, and the emotional announcement on the Ingraham angle that Maria would be attending Texas A&M University. It was another milestone, another reminder of how far they had come together. Maria has also dedicated herself to giving back, volunteering with children in cheerleading and gymnastics programs, offering encouragement and mentorship shaped by her own life experiences. And through it all, Laura continues to call her children her greatest blessing, a reminder of the softer, more personal side of a woman the public often sees only as a strong political voice. For Laura, family isn't defined by biology, but by faith, gratitude, and unconditional love. A few years after bringing Maria home, Laura felt her family wasn't yet complete. Her journey then led her far across the world to Russia. That was where Michael Dmitry Ingraham entered her life. Born on June 1, 2008, Michael was just 13 months old when Laura began the process of adopting him. His story, too, came a testament to love that crosses borders and rises above political tension. He was just a small child, young to understand the journey his life was about to take. But Laura Ingraham understood. After adopting Maria from Guatemala, her heart still felt open, ready to love another child, ready to grow her family once more. What she didn't expect was how difficult the road to Michael would be. The late 2000s were a tense time for U.S.-Russia relations, and international adoptions were caught in the middle. What should have been a straightforward process became a maze of waiting periods, paperwork delays, and political friction. Laura found herself facing obstacle after obstacle. In interviews, she later described how it felt to watch innocent children trapped in the middle of international disputes. Adoption needs to be about the children, she said. What's best for them? Children should never be used as bargaining chips. They're not commodities. But she didn't give up. She pushed forward, step by step, through every bureaucratic setback. And finally it happened. The adoption was approved. Laura described that moment as one of the most emotional experiences of her life. When she traveled to Russia and met her son for the first time, she saw the same spark of resilience she'd seen years earlier in Maria. The moment she picked him up, held him close, and looked into his eyes, she felt that unmistakable connection, a quiet certainty that he was meant to be part of her family. Michael grew into a bright and curious young man. Now 17 years old, those close to the Ingraham family describe him as energetic, kind-hearted, and driven, traits that mirror both his mother's determination and his own natural independence. He fell in love with sports, especially soccer and basketball, often diving into school and community activities with the same enthusiasm he brings into their home. Laura speaks about him with deep pride and affection, though she protects his privacy from the media. She describes him as the heartbeat of their household, someone who brings laughter, balance, and warmth wherever he goes. But Laura's journey didn't end with Michael. Once again, she felt the pull toward a child waiting far away. Once again, her path led back to Russia. That's when Nikolai Peter Ingraham came into her life. Born in 2010 in Moscow, Nikolai spent his earliest days in a world cold and unfamiliar, yet filled with possibilities he couldn't yet see. Laura adopted him in 2011 when he was just about a year old. In the span of only 3 years, her family had grown from 1 to 3 children. First Maria from Guatemala, then Michael from Russia, and now little Nikolai. Their home became a beautiful blend of cultures, stories, and beginnings. Bringing Nikolai home added a new rhythm to their family life. He was the youngest, the curious observer, the playful spirit, the one learning the sounds of a new language and the warmth of a new home. As he grew older, the family's multicultural tapestry only became richer. By 2025, at around 15 years old, Nikolai stands at the threshold of young adulthood, bridging his Russian roots with the life he's building in America, now old enough to reflect, yet still young enough to explore. Nikolai is growing into himself quietly at his own pace. Laura has kept his life away from public eyes, sharing only small glimpses, like his love for swimming. By giving him privacy, she's allowed him the space to grow without pressure, to discover who he is without cameras or headlines shaping that journey. Although Laura Ingraham is a mother of 3, she never married. She has had relationships and even an engagement, but her life unfolded along a path unlike many of her conservative peers. While others embraced traditional timelines, Laura followed a different calling, one that ultimately led her to the children. She now calls her greatest purpose. Her personal life has always fascinated the public, yet she has managed to keep much of it out of the spotlight. Still, a few relationships became known over the years. One of the earliest notable connections dates back to her time at Dartmouth College in the 1980s, where she worked at the Dartmouth Review. There, she met fellow conservative commentator Dinesh D'Souza. Their shared political passions brought them close, and there were rumors about a possible engagement, though neither ever confirmed it. What did endure was their friendship. Years later, when D'Souza faced legal trouble in 2014, Laura publicly defended him, calling him one of the finest human beings I have ever met. Then came a relationship that nearly changed the course of her life. In April 2004, Laura announced she was engaged to businessman James V. Reyes. The two reportedly met on a blind date, and their engagement seemed to promise a new chapter, a partner, a marriage, a different future. But life took a sudden turn. That same year, Laura was diagnosed with breast cancer. What followed was surgery, treatment, and a period of intense uncertainty. The diagnosis didn't just halt her wedding plans, it shifted her outlook on everything. She later shared with the public that the wedding would not move forward. The engagement ended quietly, overshadowed by her battle for her health. Laura has spoken openly about how surviving cancer changed her perspective and priorities, on relationships, and on what she wanted the next chapter of her life to look like. That moment in 2005 wasn't just the end of an engagement. It was a crossroads that helped define the direction of her future. Over the years, Laura was also linked to other well-known figures, such as former U.S. Senator Robert Torricelli and commentator Keith Olbermann. Details about those connections were never fully public, but what became clear is that by the time she opened her heart to parenthood through adoption, first to Maria in 2008, then to Michael and Nikolai in the following years, her focus had transformed. Laura has often said she believes deeply in family and the value of a strong home. Yet she also acknowledges that her own path didn't follow the traditional marriage then children model. Instead, she embraced a different truth, that family comes in many forms. And what matters most is love, commitment, and the willingness to show up for one another. As she continues raising her 3 children, she carries with her the memory of her cancer battle, how she fought, healed, and moved forward, often alone, yet never defeated. That journey reshaped her life, guided her choices, and ultimately led her to the family she cherishes today, long before she became a mother. Laura Ingraham's life was shaken by something she'd never expected. In April 2005, what began as a routine physical exam turned into a moment that would redefine everything. Doctors discovered a lump in her breast. At just 41 years old, she was suddenly facing a terrifying battle she'd never imagined she'd have to fight. The diagnosis came quickly: an aggressive form of invasive ductal carcinoma. Within a week of hearing the news, she was already undergoing the first of 2 surgeries. When early test results revealed that the cancer hadn't reached her lymph nodes, it offered a glimmer of hope in an otherwise frightening time. But the fight had only begun. After surgery came 6 grueling weeks of chemotherapy, followed by radiation treatments that lasted until the end of October 2005. Through all of it, Laura leaned on her faith, her family, and an outpouring of support from friends and listeners who refused to let her face the journey alone. She often said she felt the strength of their prayers like a force lifting her through the darkest moments. Still, Laura refused to see herself as a victim. She embraced a different identity, one she felt better captured the spirit of her fight. She preferred the word thriver, not just survivor. To her, cancer wasn't something that happened to her, it was something that transformed her. She spoke about how the journey sharpened her purpose and made her see life with new clarity. Looking back on it, she once said, "It was an awful time, but a glorious time at the same time," even believing that life after cancer could be better than the life she had before. That clarity ultimately led her to one of the most important decisions of her life: becoming a mother. After treatment, she realized she didn't want to wait anymore. She wanted to build a family, her own home, her own children, her own purpose. That realization eventually led her to Maria, Michael, and Nikolai as Laura recovered and returned to public life. She also became a strong advocate for breast cancer awareness, encouraging early testing and speaking openly about her experience. But she remained private about many of the deeper medical details. She wanted the story to be about what she gained, not what she lost. She once said she hoped to be remembered not simply as someone who had cancer, but as a mother, a friend, a woman who lived fully despite it. Her battle became the spark that led her to adoption, a choice that would change her life forever. And with that transformation, she would eventually become a passionate advocate for making adoption more accessible and less political, believing every child deserves a loving home, no matter which country they come from. Still, among all her work, one of Laura Ingraham's most meaningful missions has been her advocacy for adoption. As a single mother to 3 children adopted from different parts of the world, she has used her voice to share a simple but powerful message: adoption should be driven by love, not politics. Her own journey through the international adoption process, especially in Russia, opened her eyes to just how complicated and deeply unfair the system can be. She often repeats the belief that guided her through those difficult years: adoption should always be about the children, never about politics, never about leverage, never about nations using innocent kids as bargaining chips. Hearing her speak about it, you can sense the frustration she once felt as she navigated layers of red tape while children waited in orphanages, powerless to shape their own fate. "They're not commodities," she said, words that came from witnessing firsthand the emotional and bureaucratic walls that stood between families and the children who needed them. Her passion for the issue only grew when political tensions led to Russia banning adoptions by American families. During that time, Laura helped launch efforts like the Adopt a New Attitude project, aiming to shed light on the human cost of such decisions. She spoke fiercely about the children who were left behind, not because of anything they had done, but because they became collateral in diplomatic arguments. She lamented how a single case of abuse by one adoptive parent could trigger sweeping bans, leaving thousands of children with no chance at ever having a permanent home. It's a striking contrast. On television, Laura is known for her sharp political commentary. Yet when it comes to adoption, she draws a clear line. She insists the issue is bigger than politics, that it belongs above partisan fights. She believes orphanages and foster systems are places for healing, not arenas for geopolitical posturing. She once put it bluntly: preventing a child from entering a safe, loving home is selfish and cruel. She has also spoken honestly about the challenges of adopting as a single woman. Many agencies prefer two-parent households, making international adoption even more complicated. Despite that, she persisted, driven by her belief that family is built on love, stability, and faith, not marital status. And she has poured those same beliefs into raising her children. If you ever met Laura Ingraham's kids, you would see the reflection of her parenting philosophy, a blend of conservative values, strong faith, and the practical realities of raising three children who each came from different countries, cultures, and beginnings. She talks about responsibility and independence as cornerstones of her home. She believes children thrive when they know what is expected of them, when they learn to stand on their own, and when they develop moral clarity instead of simply following rules without understanding why. She often says that children should be guided to think critically and act ethically, not just told what to believe. That approach becomes even more important in a household where every child carries a unique story. Though Laura's career places her in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment, she has said that parenting demands something different: connection. In presence, she is known for setting clear, structured discipline, responsibility, and a sense of purpose. Her kids grow up with an understanding of hard work, integrity, and faith. Catholicism plays a meaningful role in her home, offering a foundation for the values she hopes to pass on and a sense of direction as her children grow. Still, she balances structure with freedom. Laura encourages her kids not just to follow instructions, but to ask questions, form their own beliefs, and stand by their convictions. She wants them to grow into people of character, not conformity individuals who know where they come from, what they believe, and who they want to become. She has often admitted that raising children as a single parent is the hardest thing I'll ever do. That honesty reveals both the weight of the responsibility and the belief that true independence for both parent and child comes from embracing challenges, not avoiding them. Part of her parenting approach includes simple moments of gratitude and reflection, even though she keeps her private life mostly hidden from the public. She once shared that every night she encourages her kids to talk about something positive from their day. And in a home where each child comes from a different country, she has made it a point not to erase their backgrounds, but to celebrate them, weaving their unique cultures into the rhythm of family life. Beyond her parenting choices, Laura's deep devotion to faith shapes much of who she is. Her journey into motherhood is inseparable from her Roman Catholic beliefs, which she embraced more fully in young adulthood. She has often described her faith as the backbone of her life, source of her strength, and the compass that guided her decision to adopt her children. She spoke openly about how long before she adopted any of them she felt a strong desire to become a mother, and how her 2005 cancer diagnosis pushed her to stop waiting and start building the life she wanted. Through the toughest seasons, faith became her anchor. In one Mother's Day reflection, she said, "That's the most important thing for me, my Catholic faith. Without that, everything would be very, very difficult for me." In her home, faith isn't a quiet presence. It shapes her children's character, their sense of morality, and their understanding of purpose. She teaches them gratitude, humility, hard work, and service, values she herself learned growing up in a faith-centered household. To Laura, motherhood is not just about raising successful children. It's about raising human beings who live with intention. Her goal, she once put it, is simple yet profound: to be the best mom I can be. I want to see my kids independent and strong and happy, prepared for life in all its fullness. Even with a demanding, public-facing career, she keeps her parenting grounded in everyday practices, gratitude, reflection, responsibility, and faith rather than entitlement or image. And while her personal journey has been filled with twists, setbacks, and reinventions, she remains a distinctive presence in American media. Laura Ingraham has built a career that blends pointed conservative commentary with sharp media instincts. From her early work as a speechwriter in the Reagan administration to clerking for a Supreme Court justice, she carved a path that eventually led her into broadcasting. Talk radio became her first big leap, and when the Laura Ingraham Show launched in 2001, Her voice began to echo across the country. By 2007, she had joined Fox News as a contributor, and a decade later, she stepped into her own primetime role with the Ingraham and Gola show, known for its bold critiques, conservative lens, and high-energy interviews. Throughout her career, she has weighed in on cultural shifts, political debates, immigration, and broader national conversations, shaping and reflecting the momentum of conservative America. Now, we follow the journey behind the public image. We've seen the mother behind the microphone, the faith behind the commentary, and the strength behind the challenges. Laura Ingraham may not have a husband, but she raises her 3 children with conviction, love, and a perspective shaped by her own unique life story. So here's the big question. Do you think Laura Ingraham will ever get married, or will she continue walking her own path and maybe even adopt more children? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.